Thanks, Joe. I don't think too much introduction. I think Sanjay did the job this morning. So, Logistics Executive Group, I'm the MD for Asia and Chief Operating Officer of our global businesses. We effectively have three businesses: corporate advisory, which helps organisations empower their supply chains, linked to that central topic that Marcella talked about earlier, people, and our education businesses as well. And my background is actually, my first ever job actually was running a small courier company, so that did last mile delivery. So there you go, and through the airline industry and then into later stage of business ownership and consulting.
Great, okay. Thanks very much. So let me kick off the panel session. The topic today is the new e-commerce and business model disruptor. Yes or no? We shall find out. What I'd like to do is have an interactive audience discussion. So I will ask the panel some questions, get some answers, and I'll throw it over to you to make comments or ask questions, and we flip backwards and forwards between the panel and the audience, such that we can have really some interactive discussion. But let me start off first of all by asking Marcelo. Marcelo, you presented a very interesting model of your company, which is very much driven from a business B2C model. Now, when you presented it, made it sound very simple, very easy. Come and talk to me and I can help you develop your business and run your business. But isn't that simple? What does somebody who wants to enter this space have to do to prepare themselves?
Good question. So if it would be that simple, I think you probably wouldn't have a whole lot of customers. Because I think that the complexity lies in connecting all the various systems together and being able to do that seamlessly and then being able to actually run that effectively. So if you look, for example, at an e-commerce site, you think this is rather simple technology, but being able to pull the product content and the product data from literally tens of thousands of products and do that cohesively is not that straightforward. The same thing applies to the hosting of the technology. In Asia Pacific, it's unfortunately not one homogeneous market. So for example, when we host sites in China, they have to be dedicated inside the Chinese firewall. If you use the same one that you have here in Australia or Singapore, that doesn't work. There's a list of complexities that actually make it significantly harder than it seems on the surface.
And one of those complexities is how do you advise a client or somebody thinking about starting this business? What should we start thinking in the background about the infrastructure, looking at things as the first steps moving forward?
Yeah, so the first thing that we usually do is that we have a small team that does a market or a feasibility analysis for the specific brand. So we work with rather simple things where we just look at the number of searches for a specific product to see what's the potential of a brand or retailer in a specific market. But then also do the customs and duties and the local regulations.
Okay, great. So Onno, you are in a very different business. You are a shipper, manufacturer, you have a huge array of customers, you use 3PLs, and you have a global footprint. Is e-commerce going to be a disruptor for you? Are you preparing for it not to be a disruptor? How are you going to take the opportunity of using this digital technology to better further your business?
Actually, still their product care division is considering itself as the enabler of e-commerce and helping the 3PL companies streamlining the fulfillment operations. Going back to some of the discussions earlier today and also re-emphasizing Marcelo's point, when companies are actually getting into the e-commerce marketplace, the fulfillment is pretty important, and when companies are failing, they only fail when they don't actually understand the exact ins and outs of what can go wrong when the order comes in. We actually commissioned a study just about last year by Harris Poll, and based on those findings, we were fascinated by some of the statistics. And I'll give you an example. 78% of the US shoppers, the age of between 18 and 35, expect their goods, when they click pay, their goods to be shipped within 24 hours. So somebody without having that kind of velocity or fulfillment or operations could not really meet that demand by fulfilling the needs of those online shoppers, because 78% of them expect that when they click and pay, they want their goods delivered within 24 hours. I think that's the most challenging disruption that people have to understand, that there is, okay, everybody's going on the marketplace and e-commerce is actually booming, but are you really building up your momentum, your infrastructure to meet that demand of 78% of the time that people are expecting that you will ship their goods within 24 hours?
I think you mentioned earlier on that you see disruption as an enabler.
Exactly.
How have you actually demonstrated an example of how you actually have done that?
We, in Sealed Air's ecosystem, we have automated systems that helps the 3PL omni-channel fulfillment centers increase the productivity about 15%. So when you use the right packaging material, when you use the right automated packaging systems that enable your productivity increase about 15% by using about 60% of less packaging material. So one of the findings about our study was most cumbersome thing for the online shoppers are when they open some box, there's another box inside and so much goods that are actually filled in the summer boxes. So when you open something, it comes a pen, it's so many protective materials for it. That's also very cumbersome. So companies that seal their ourselves finding a way to use less material with the most protection. This way we can actually reduce the freight cost by the smaller boxes of the goods and also increase the productivity with the velocity that we can increase the productivity
So it's very much what Marcel was saying. You have to look at internal processes, redesign processes, change the way you work, the way you think and move forward. Now, I think most people here can relate more to B2B rather than B2C. Can I see a show of hands? How many of you actually have started a B2B or a B2C program in your companies? Any show of hands? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or very few. How many of you are thinking of starting a program? One? Only one? Wow. So one wonders, why are you only thinking about it and you haven't started? Have you come across any challenges at all? What are the challenges you may be facing with starting a program? Is it the fear of the unknown, or just you haven't had the opportunity? Any volunteers? No? Okay, so let's move on. Let me ask Darryl, because Darryl's a people man. He actually sees a lot of people around organizations.
Not sure what that means.
Darryl, in your opinion, driving digital technology environment, putting in place the structural changes, the redevelopment of process, etc., needs something different, not something special.
Yeah.
What do organizations need, and what do you think is missing from the organization today?
How long is the panel? Very good question, Joe. Look, I think I'll start with the first question you posed, which is, why were you even asking if it's disruptive, right? It is disruptive. I think that's the first thing. So then it comes down, if that's where the market is going, that's where our shoppers are going. And by the way, this word, I really dislike this word omni-channel. Our shoppers don't come to us and say, I'm going to buy from an omni-channel. They don't even know what the word means. So the only people that are using the word omni-channel is us. Right, and it's the most appropriate tag that we've given it. The questions that organisations need to be asking themselves is and when we ask these questions, very few of them have all the answers, and I think you were talking about that earlier in your slides. Where are your future customers going to come from? What markets are they currently sitting in? How are they going to transact with you? What does that shopping platform environment look like? And then more importantly, what are my systems and processes going to need to overlay that to support that? I love your comment on the packaging. I don't do a lot of online shopping, but I bought some shoes. The shoes I'm wearing now I purchased about a week or so ago, and I got given this massive box. And I got excited because I thought maybe they'd sent me more pairs than I'd purchased. But when I opened it, there was a box inside a box, and there was a box inside another box, and eventually got to the shoe box. And I thought, wow, they've just shipped that all the way from the US at some horrific cost, and they did it for free, which I don't get, right? So, Joe, I think systems processes is one part of it, but the people piece, which is the central theme that Marcelo talked about, is absolutely critical. Sustainable leadership is all about evolving your executive skills. What is right for today in our shopper's mind is not right for tomorrow, and what's right for our people today is not necessarily where they have to get to harmonise what our consumers want to see from us as a business. That's one. Our talent inflows, and I could go on all day about this, and I know there's a talent panel and I'll talk about that, but we tend to go and go, let me just go and find someone who's already in the e-commerce space or working for a 3PL company. No, I like your slide. You had, I don't know how many people you had up there, 12 people up there or something, 10 people, right? One of them had experience in e-commerce, I think, of me. The rest came from diverse industries that brought different skills all to the executive leadership team that enable us to serve our customer better. And I think it's about using those central themes, evolving our people's skills, looking for transferable knowledge that we can bring into our organisations that allow us to connect to our customers, and understanding our customers, communicating with our customers and finding out what's next from their perspective.
Thanks, Darryl. So leadership, diversity and communication are three ingredients. Have you experienced this in your organization?
Actually, we did. And when Sealed Air accidentally invented bubble wrap, which was actually supposed to be a wallpaper, by the way, and the inventors, the founders and inventors of our company realized that it doesn't really go well with the bubbles on the wall, and they realized they can use it something better. And then that was the time that where the United States was actually transforming the shipping models, and that people realized that actually there is a better alternative than the used print media, which is newspaper at that time, to ship goods. And then they started using bubble wrap, and which enabled the then catalog or phone orders to become what we know as omnichannel with all those different protection materials. And before I just go ahead, actually, let me actually ask a question to audience myself. Based on the studies we find, can anybody guess the total cost of shipping and damages happening throughout the transaction throughout the world globally? What is the cost of damaged goods, A to B, ocean, air, what have you? What do you suggest that the total cost
As
was?
a dollar number or number of shipments? Dollar?
Dollar amount.
Dollar
Dollar. US dollar amount, yes.
Any volunteers? Shoot any number. A billion?
Billion?
It's actually more than a billion. I can give you that.
More than 10 billion.
More than 10 billion.
More than 10 billion. Amazing.
Actually, to be exact, it's $30 billion US dollars.
This is across all the range of products.
All across the range of products that businesses actually consider this cost, the $30 billion cost, as a cost of doing business. So what they do is actually they automatically, when they start 2016, all the businesses around the world, they know that they're going to be incurring the $30 billion of damages, online, air, the domestic truck, so that they write that off automatically. So what the companies I see there come in place where, well, instead of actually losing that money, why don't we actually look the packaging differently so that we avoid that cost? Why don't we just go working with our third-party logistics company partners and then go to brand owners and then design goods differently so that those costs of damages, especially when omnichannel and e-commerce is actually increasing, do not happen. There's one striking statistics, and I'll actually give Marcella to just maybe comment on that one, is we find that 81%, again, striking number, 81% of responders, when they receive something broken or damaged online, they are not going to go and same online merchant and buy the products from that same online merchant. And they equally blame on both the carrier and the online merchant. So if I receive my tablet broken or something goes wrong with my package, I blame on the third-party logistics delivery company as well as the online merchant. And 81% of the people actually are not going to be going in the same merchant and then go somebody else.
Okay, that's a good point. So apart from 30 billion, which could be claimed insurance, and you fix the problem, you can actually save an insurance premium, etc. But how do you correct the problem or the perception that e-commerce suddenly becomes even bigger disruptor when you have this pipeline issues? How have you actually coped that mindset change in your organization?
It all starts with the 4 pillars. The cube optimization, just like my colleague just mentioned right now. The cube optimization, the goods are actually shipping in the bigger boxes. So we have, when you look at the smaller boxes in the e-commerce, UPS and FedEx, and I don't know if anybody follows what happened last year in the United States, is FedEx and UPS came out with this new way of billing their customers in dimensional weight. Okay. What used to be on the weight charges on the ground shipments, customers are actually getting billed on the dimensional weight. That increases their freight cost up to 30%. So they're shipping the same volume, but their freight charges went up to 30% because of the dimensional weight.
So it's down packaging again, it's fundamentally packaging.
Fundamental packaging. And then by looking at the redesigning of packaging, and then smaller boxes can really help the customers reduce their freight charges. This way, it can help the Amazons of the world, or Walmart.com of the world, so that they can go that free shipping less expensive for them.
Okay, that's very clear. Marcelo, you see in the audience how many people are actually engaged in the digital technology. Obviously, it's a huge customer base for you. But can you maybe share with us, why is it this fear? Why are people not considering digital technology? What is the barriers that you are seeing dealing with the marketplace? Why are people not more open in embracing this new technology?
Yeah, so there's usually a couple of factors that we see. One is a surprising, probably the biggest one that we see is that in a lot of cases, for bigger brands and retailers, they only have a rather small footprint here in Asia Pacific. And usually all the technology is provided from a global technology organization that sits somewhere in the US, Europe, or Japan. And Southeast Asia or Australia, New Zealand is always last in the priority list. So one of the biggest factors that we see is that on the list of an IT department to do that our part of the world here is really kind of brand. And that's one of the reasons why I think that why demand, why supply of e-commerce sites here is actually significantly lower than in other parts of the world. And then the second, probably equally big factor is that the markets are so differentiated here, because it's very different to do business in Indonesia than in Singapore, than in Australia, than in Vietnam. You almost need to have dedicated setups and systems to support that. And obviously, it's not as economical to do that when you have a large market like the US or the UK, where you can invest same for similar amounts and have a much larger market.
But I think the audience, or certainly businesses, don't understand the potential for what it can do. I'm one of my small clients, an SME, is actually embarking on e-commerce for designing buildings, designing systems within buildings. Now you say, wow, this is unbelievable, that's what it takes, some software. No, but there's validation, online validation, there's bill of materials, and it really is the breakthrough that people have to understand how to embrace. You had a comment there?
Yeah, I just want to lend some support to that comment. I think one of the things that we're seeing evolve now is, and your business is a great example of it, I'm sorry to keep coming back to it, but if a retailer is serious about the Asia markets and the diversity we have here, both culturally and the adoption of technology and language as well, then they're actually almost better off actually working with a specialist partner that can accelerate their growth in those markets through completely outsourcing of their omni-channel strategies, from a technology perspective particularly, but also from an operational perspective. We still have retailers in our customer group that when we sit there and we talk to them about the evolution of their business and what's happening next, they're still battling in their heads how to actually do it and how to come to terms with that, and what technologies should I be deploying. Where should I be putting my fulfillment centres? Should I be converting my DC into a fulfillment centre to cope for my new channels? And I just don't understand the logic of that when you're seeing rapid acceleration of organisations that specialise in, I'll call it white labelling, but being able to come to a party and say, if I turned up with your company today and said, look, I want to sell that in an e-commerce environment, but I don't want to invest in technology. I don't want to warehouse it. I want to tap into all the assets that you currently have deployed. And by the way, I want that in 5 languages in 4 countries, and I want to be able to pay people through different methods. Your answer would be yes. And we're seeing the acceleration of M&A. If you look at the list of M&A and T&L this year alone, 50% of transactions have been organisations buying technology capability to drive their e-commerce supply chain channels.
Yeah, while you're on the mic, I really want to ask you about the competency gap in the market. Isn't that really the fundamental problem in moving ahead? And isn't the fundamental problem that e-commerce or digital technology is a disruptor because of the lack of proper competencies that companies and organizations are recruiting?
I think the answer is, it's a difficult question to ask, but I think the answer is yes, without any doubt whatsoever. And I think a lot of it comes back to the fact that we are chasing the market, we're not leading the market. There's very few companies doing the move that Singapore did a number of years ago when you bought Quantum, and you're starting to invest in that. So you are a little bit ahead of the game. Jim Lim used today the 3PLs, fake it till you make it sort of thing, right? I'm going to be an e-commerce LSP. Well, no, you're not. You need to do something different, and you need a different talent pool to enable to bring that into your organisations. And I think we're chasing the customer demand too much. We're not ahead of it.